Hello, Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Gavin here with secretsoflongevity.com. As we all know, raw vegans or just raw foodists tend to be the one group within the health community online that, for whatever reason, has the most amount of logical fallacies or cognitive errors built within their arguments. This lends a lot of skepticism and sort of ridicule to be put on them, and I think to some degree that's valid. I don't think it should be ridiculed per se, but that's why a lot of people can't take them seriously, because they have these poor thinking skills behind a lot of what it is they stand for. Now, this video is designed to both make people that are arguing against them to have better reasoning, because logical fallacies exist within every paradigm of any academic topic, whether it's politics, any type of science, any type of sociology, etc. You can apply these ideas, and even this diagram, which I'm going to put on the screen in a moment, to step up your skills in debating and discussing and arguing within any topic. Now, if you're on the other side of the coin and you're vegan, raw vegan, or fit within anything I'm talking about here, then you can use this information to step up your game if you still feel that there's some validity after watching this to the stance that you hold. I am not for, completely dismissing opposing views. I'm for really good critical analysis and sticking to the facts and good reason and logic when approaching any topic like this. But after many years of talking online, I've been debating online since I was very young. It's one of the first things I did when I was going online on the internet, and it started off with religious type debates when I was almost like a preteen, I think. And yes, those were definitely not formal in the slightest, but that started the process of me developing my abilities to be able to do this type of thing online. And, with every discussion I engage in, I get a little better at this. Now, this diagram I'm going to put up on the screen really shows a complete list, at least one of the most complete lists of three things, and that's what are known as logical fallacies, cognitive errors, and argumentative errors. And also, because it's a Venn diagram, there's overlapping areas, and then there's a central area, which would be topics that would include all three types of bad reasoning, bad logic, and that have no place in the academic, reason-based, logical thinking process that we need to apply to these types of topics. So I'm also going to stick a link below so you can go to that poster or list to refer to, so you can read it more up close. I mean, you saw some examples on the screen there. You can always go back and pause it, but it is difficult to see, I understand. And I'm just going to stick to 10 of these that I see used most predominantly within the vegan or raw vegan paradigm that really shows how poorly thought out their arguments tend to be. So for number one, and this is an argumentative error, you've probably heard me say this multitudes of times, whether you see me in the comments or in past videos, is the ad hominem. So this is any type of dismissal based on something that has nothing to do with the present facts at hand. So attacking the person as opposed to the message. So one I've had directed at me would be things like, you look pale, therefore your stance can't be right, or what you're teaching can't be healthy. Or an even more ridiculous one is, your hair is slicked back, therefore you look like a sleazy person and you obviously can't have it right when it comes to whatever topic of health you were talking about in that video. So it's pretty clear that that's just a personal attack based on someone's appearance. It can be any kind of character flaw, whether it's a flaw or just something you personally don't like about someone. When you're discussing a topic, you have to address the topic, not the messenger. That is an absolute number one standard that you have to adhere to, and it is unbelievable how many people base a lot of their stance on this extreme flaw in this most basic error of reason-based thought. The next one, which is also an argumentative error, is ad nauseum. So that's going to be the repetition of any point over and over again. It almost becomes kind of like a propaganda type of mentality and it's often the same point put into different wording. So have you ever read the China study? Why haven't you read the China study? You must read the China study. It's one of the most common things we hear, and it's absolutely ridiculous to just keep on repeating it, whether it's repeated within a whole group or if it's one person repeating it on different videos, or even worse is within the same argument in that one spot. Furthermore, which is really bad, is after it's been debunked or addressed, then you keep repeating it, then that really renders the quality and the respectability of your argument down to absolute zero. You have no place in continuing this discussion, and you need to leave immediately. This third one I'm talking about is a logical fallacy, and it's the appeal to emotion. So that's going to be anything to try and sway someone that isn't based in logic, but based on trying to make them feel bad. So if we were to use a court case type of example, you might have a prosecutor that is saying to the jury or something that if you let this person go, you're going to have a dangerous person out there. That actually holds no substance. It's not saying anything about why he's a bad person, or you haven't proven that he's done any crime. You're just trying to make the group that's going to be deciding this, in this case the jury, you're trying to sway them with emotion as opposed to good solid facts. So in the vegan world, what I see is, you're going to agree with me on this, and of course the vegans are going to think this is a completely reasonable tool, but to say, you make animals suffer when you eat them. Now, there is an argument around ethics that can be made for that, and that would be make sense for that. However, when you're talking about health, that has no place in the discussion on whether something's healthy or not. So you can't take an ethical argument that has an effect on the emotions and try to apply it to that, because you're appealing to the emotions as opposed to sticking to the facts. Number 4 here is going to be appeal to authority. This actually falls into the center, so it's got elements that would fall under all 3 categories in that Venn diagram. So this is kind of like name dropping. It's saying, well, so-and-so said this, so it must be right because, look at all the letters after the name, or look at their position in said academic school, or what this newspaper said about them. Campbell. Sorry, I just had to clear my throat there. Number 5 is the straw man argument. You've probably heard this word. People have said to do not use that in the discussion before. And if you didn't know what it was, well, here's the explanation of it. You can't construct something and argue against it if that thing you constructed isn't even what the other side is saying. So a very common one, here's a study showing that the protein from non-organic, factory-farmed dairy, isolated away from all the other nutrients that are normally found within this whole food, increases the cancer rates in humans. Therefore, you should not be eating that wild elk you caught on your own property, because it's going to cause that problem. So you can see the inherent flaw in there just because I was so descriptive in what I was saying. But the way that's often masked is by stepping back and not being that descriptive. So it might just say, animal protein causes cancer, therefore you should not be eating animal protein. That simplified statement still describes the one I had said previously, but when you get in depth, you actually see that building the strawman argument with the whole idea of factory farmed, non-organic, etc., is not the same as countering the argument for, wild animal food or even raw dairy or anything, because you're arguing against something that's completely not a part of what the other side's even trying to promote as being healthy. Number 6 is the false dichotomy, which is another one that falls within that central area of all type of argument type errors, and it is sort of the black and white type argument. It's like all or nothing. So you're either 100% raw vegan or you're just 100% vegan, and if you're eating 1 egg a week with the rest being plants, you're no different and just as bad of a person as those who are eating complete junk food diets, mainstream standard American diets, and you're the scum of the earth. So you can see that there's a very big difference in range of what's out there. We could make arguments for different combinations of things and whether they're healthy or not, and this black and white type mindset is the false dichotomy. Number 7 is an interesting one. It's an example of a cognitive error, which is known as the expectation bias. This is probably the one that is the most widespread and not specific to any one group. And let's get that definition perfect. The tendency to notice, remember, and give particular weight to the things that fit our pre-existing beliefs, and not notice, not remember, and or give weight to anything that contradicts our pre-existing belief. So that's essentially focusing on the things that support you and disregarding the things that counter your stance. This, like I said, is amongst one of the most widespread things that I see, even amongst any other dietary group or any other argument for other things that aren't even in the realm of nutrition. However, the major difference is that if you have the basis of your ideas, your conclusions, what we could call your beliefs, even though it's not really a belief if it is based on a conclusion, if you have a solid foundation to something and some differing information comes your way, you do have a bit of an ability to be able to disregard it, because if it's just one thing, it's got a lot of information that needs to gather with it to make up for the difference, to be able to counter your strongly rooted understanding and conclusions. However, if all those understandings and conclusions are based in belief, which we see within the raw vegan world quite a bit, then it becomes more of an issue, what we could call this cognitive error, because it doesn't have anything solid behind it to be able to warrant you just disregarding that information that's coming in to challenge your belief. Number 8 is a post hoc or ad hoc, which is essentially, if we were to use an example, which I see within the raw vegan world, and just for emphasis sake, I want to say that this is an exaggeration. I had X, Y, or Z disease, insert whatever disease you want, and when I became an organic, raw vegan, crystal, unicorn, and narco-socialist light child of Gaia, that disease went away. Therefore, animal foods caused my disease and I can never go back to them. I think you understood where I was exaggerating just a little there. But essentially, you make these big, wide-sweeping changes to your lifestyle, you push through and you overcome a long-standing chronic illness you had, you feel fantastic, and you point the finger to one single thing as having been the cause of it, and argue against that thing with that being your basis. So that's the foundation of that logical fallacy. Number 9 is a very popular one as well. It's an argumentative error. And this is called guilt by association. So this would be like saying, so-and-so was a overweight, paleo or low-carb diet eating person and they died prematurely. Therefore, a lot of people who eat paleo or low-carb are going to get overweight and die prematurely. I think you understand the inherent problem in making this type of statement. It's taking a singular example and extrapolating it and applying it to other people without any kind of constructive scientific study basis, which is just has no place in any type of argument whatsoever. Yet it is very prevalent within sort of the extreme areas of raw veganism. So finally, number 10 is a cognitive error. It is the attention bias, where you focus too much on the people who are having a lot of success within your paradigm and ignoring, even shunning, even shaming the people who have ran into problems and fallen off the bandwagon, so to speak. I think a lot of you know who I'm referring to, or the groups I'm referring to that do this. It is really despairing and disgusting and just all out illogical and just pathetic when it comes to striving to better the community as a whole. It shows that they have a strong belief in an ideology as opposed to rigorous science, and it's just unfortunate that people get stuck in this way. So that's why I'm making a video like this, is to enlighten and raise people up to this higher level of thinking, because it is vastly needed in health world, nutrition world, especially online, where ideas run abound. There's very little academic-based discussion. It's great having people who aren't within academia discussing these things, but you got to kind of make the effort on your own part to raise yourself up to that level of thinking, which is entirely possible. You do not need to have letters after your name to be able to discuss these things. One man's or woman's points are just as valid as the next if the points are good. It doesn't matter who's spreading them or saying them. I hope you can take this to heart and really become a pioneer and, warrior of higher standards, as opposed to just being a warrior for your ideology. We don't need that anymore in the health world. We want to get healthier, not more rigid and dogmatic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, favorite, and share the video if you feel so inclined. And with that, I'll talk to you next time. Take care and embrace life without limits.